Blog Talk Radio.
Hello everyone, good morning. This is Laurie Smith on Blog Talk Radio. It is 6 o'clock here in the morning, Monday morning, May the 2nd. I'm glad to be here. This is One Child Abuse Survivor to Another. We're on for 30 minutes. It's a live internet streaming radio broadcast from blogtalkradio.com, and chat room is open. I did pop the link in there of what we were talking about last week and the week before. Just looking at inner child work and from a bunch of web pages called Joy to You and Me from Robert Burney. And this is found on healing.about.com. And the link is so long, I can't read it out. I just put it in the chat room. But if you go to http://healing.about.com, you can look up Joy to You and Me. And also you could probably look into inner child, child abuse, stuff like that on that website. And it'll bring you to his web pages. And he's got a book. He's written a book. He's an author, and he's a codependency therapist. He's a spiritual teacher and an author of a book called Co-Dependence, The Dance of Wounded Souls, which I would really like to get a hold of that book eventually. He's got some great information here for people, and it's just a different way. Everyone's got the different take on things, and I don't know, some of his stuff I agree with, some of it I doesn't necessarily apply to me, or I just feel differently about it, but it's just good information for people who are looking for information about, inner child work from, possibly, growing up abused or in an abusive environment, right? So that's what we've been looking at for a couple weeks, or at least 2.5 weeks. And so I wanted to continue looking at his website. He's got a lot of information about dependency, boundaries, and whatnot. And we've already been through this, looking at Hope for Us, Hope for Survivors web pages, and that's also on the web, http://hopeforsurvivors.com. That was from Hope for Us, and she's a survivor, and she's written a whole lot of stuff just like Robert Burney. So we already did this, 6 months ago probably, or maybe even a little bit, maybe 4 months ago or 5 months ago, but it's been a while. But I'm always kind of looking around to see what information's out there. So thanks everybody for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I'm not a counselor or therapist. I'm just a private citizen paying to do my shows. I'm a survivor of child abuse, and I've always been affected by, obviously, growing up in the situation that I did, watching people suffer, and including suffering myself. Always been interested in, the issues, why people do these things, and that we need to stop child abuse, and it's always bothered me. But I never really wanted to get involved. I always thought it was great somebody else was doing all the work, and I didn't think that I could get involved. It wasn't that I didn't want to. I just didn't realize how I could get involved. And so I just sat on the sidelines and, of course, never started my healing journey until about 4 years ago. I don't think I really would have been able to do much about getting involved anyway without starting my healing journey. So 4 years ago I started my healing journey almost to the day, this month. So, it's been a long road, but it's been good. And like I said on Friday's show, we were talking and I said, a lot of people can't do self-help, right? I've done online self-help. Because I've been living with this forever. I'm in my mid-40s, and I just, I thought, well, I'm not going to hurt myself, and I'm not going to hurt somebody else, so I can do this self-help, no problem for me. But I know other people can't, or maybe shouldn't even attempt to. So, you have to, if you're a survivor and you're having a hard time, you have to do the very best thing for yourself. You almost have to become your own best advocate. And I've just seen this on too many websites and seen this from too many, therapists and psychotherapists and whatnot, all saying the same thing, that, you have to know what's good for you. You have to think about, what do I need? Do I need group support? Do I need one-on-one counseling? Do I need online anonymous group support? Like, what's going to work for each of us? It's going to be different. And so, for me, it was okay to do self-help, and so that's the thing, but it isn't for everybody. And so, I would say if you're struggling and you're having a hard time, you make sure you reach out and think about what you need, and we have to become our own best advocates if we're going to really get help and get the proper help, because we have to know what's going on inside of us. We have to know because nobody else can really know. We know, we have to know what's happening in our lives and what's really keeping us from healing, from actually feeling good or feeling good about ourselves, functioning, on day-to-day walk, day-to-day living, So I know that my parents were both had mental problems. They had mental issues. My mom was manic depressive, and she was abused as a child, and then abused as a wife and a woman, and she had all kinds of problems, but she was diagnosed manic depressive years and years ago, back when I was a kid. And my dad was diagnosed borderline schizophrenic, as well as borderline personality problems and other stuff. And the two of them together were just this bad mix of depression and just complete unsatisfaction of life, and they just brought us up in that mess. And so as an adult, I've had to work like double time to try to not take on those behaviors, to not allow that stuff to rule my life, and to not follow in their footsteps, right? So what I did was, years ago, said I didn't want to be like them, right? So I just maintained my life, but never really began my healing journey. It was always sitting around in a bunch of sorrow, sadness, and grief, So that's why I'm doing these shows, because I know what it's like to be on that side. I know what it's like to be over on that other side. And I wanted to be one more voice, and also because I'm still going through my healing journey. I'm really quite a ways through there now, and I feel so much better than I ever did in my entire lifetime. Right now, today, sitting here, you know what I mean. Like I recognize my behaviors, and the only reason why, I guess, is because I'm paying attention. I have to work full time. I'm extremely busy, but I think that I've been given the ability to think outside the box. Like I can maintain my personal life as well as maintain almost like a self-help therapist position as a third party for myself. So I'm able to see progress that I'm making. I'm able to see what areas I still need help in. I think I've just been given a gift. My brain just works like that. And so, I've been able to assess myself and really see, the progress made, and also areas that I do need some more work in. And it's been good, like for me. And that's what I just wanted to be, one more voice out here for people to say, look, there is hope. And whatever it is that brings you peace and hope in your life, that's what I wish for you. And the only way we're going to get that, for any survivor of child abuse, or for any person on the planet, really. I mean, everybody goes through trials and troubles and has issues in their lives, right? But if you grow up abused, you got just that many more. And so that's why I'm so adamant about stopping child abuse, right? So this is why I'm doing this show, just to try to be another voice for people, and to say, what, got to hang in there, because there's better days, but there won't be if you don't hang in there and you don't try. We have to all try. We have to work at it. It's not going to happen overnight, and it certainly doesn't happen. I always thought somebody would just be able to heal me. Like, I just thought somebody would come into my life, like a friend or something, and they would be able to just take away all my pain. So everybody that I met that I loved dearly as a friend, or even a sweetheart, like my sweetheart, I just thought they could take away my pain. You know what I mean? For some reason, I was just wishing that. You know what I mean? And I realized 4 years ago that was never going to happen. It was going to have to be me, and that's why I started my healing journey. And I have to be accountable for it and responsible for it. And so I realized that nobody else can do that. I'm the only one that really knows what's going on inside of me. And so that nobody can take away our pain, but we can learn to. Nobody here on this planet, I don't believe that they can. I think we have to do it. We have to do it. It's literally up to us. And we have to decide what's good for us, and that's why I watched my family disintegrate. I got a couple of siblings left, and my dad, who's still on the planet for who knows how long. He's almost 90, so he's getting up there. And he's had quite a few surgeries this last couple of years, so I don't know, he's so toxic I don't even want to talk to him, so I've actually cut him off. And it's just, what do you do? So I realized I was going to have to do this. It was going to have to be me to be in charge of my healing, and I was going to have to find out what it's going to take to get me where I need to be, which is a healthy, whole adult. You know what I mean? I want to be one of these people out here that's just living life healthy, whole, because there is a wholeness. There's a wholeness I believe that everybody can achieve. And, you know what I mean? Like a centered feeling of, hey, I know who I am. I know where I'm going. I love myself. I don't have to suffer in that old way of thinking of because I was so battered down and mistreated that I just took on these beliefs and these ideas that people put in my head that I was no good and I was just worthless and stupid and everything else, right? And I had to learn how to turn all that around to see a different picture of myself, as an adult and also as that child that I was, right? So I had to get in touch with my child, my inner child that I was so long ago. I've had to get in touch with all of that stuff, teenager years, and all the mistakes that I made, really, because of what had happened to me. I just just was on a bad course, you know what I mean? And so I know so many people out there who have been through this. So a lot of my friends did the same thing, ended up dead, it's horrible. And, just watching people suffer, watching my two brothers ruin their lives, completely ruin their lives, and then take their lives, right? They didn't just have a great life and then kill themselves. They had the most pathetic, horrible lives a person can imagine, living on the streets, eating out of garbage bins and in big cities, and just being rolled and mugged and beaten and robbing banks and hurting, who knows who they hurt. And, you know what I mean? And then getting put in prison and they just ruined their lives and they killed themselves, So I watched this destruction going on around me. Man, I do not want to go that way. I know there's people out there living decent, healthy lives. I know that that's for me, and how do I get it? You know what I mean? And it's not about money, and it's not about, status and a job. It's not about any of that. It's about how do I get in touch and be at peace with myself so that when I wake up in the morning, I don't have a war going on inside of my mind and inside of my heart. Because it was this war that I had been brought up in. It certainly wasn't my war. It was my parents' war. And the aftermath is the shell shock is what I had to deal with every day. And so I thought, man, I know that I can do this, and I know that there is peace out in my heart and peace in my life if I choose it. I had to make a huge decision, to choose peace in my heart and to choose peace in my life and to choose to feel good and walk free of that garbage that my parents put on me. And that was a choice I made. And we have to make choices in life, right? My brothers didn't make those choices for themselves. Like they didn't, for whatever reason, my two brothers could not seem to make those two choices. And we would talk to them. They had help. They weren't completely on their own. They had all kinds of people actually trying to help them, including, because they had problems and gone into prisons and gone into the hospital for trying to kill themselves before and drug overdoses and stuff. I mean, they would have people telling them, "Hey, you got to change your life around. You got to get some help," but they wouldn't do it. And I believe it's just because inside of them they could not figure it out that it was going to have to be them to do it. They just figured somebody else should do it. And then so I was doing the same thing until actually as older than they. One of my brothers killed himself when he was 33. The other one of my brothers killed himself, died of a drug overdose, but he knew he was going to die of a drug overdose because he was always overdosing at the age of 38. So, I mean, I lived another, 3 years after my one brother. I was older than they were, than they made it on this planet. And here I was doing the same thing. I mean, I was able to hold down a job, and I wasn't using drugs, but my heart and my soul were just so damaged, you know what I mean? And I thought, why, I'm just continuing on to suffer in this, and why am I doing this? Why am I allowing this? So that's when I got upset. I was like, that's it, no more, absolutely no more. I've got to change this around. I want to live a decent life because I know it's possible, and I know people who have lived these decent lives, and they have problems too. But they just learn to cope and they learn to deal with things and they just get up and they keep going and they've found some sort of a truth inside of themselves that makes sense of who they are in this world and what they're doing and they enjoy life, right? And I thought, hey, I want to do that. I can do that. There's no reason why I can't do that. And so it was a challenge for me, but 4 years ago that's what I started doing. And so that's the thing. I would encourage everybody to keep on holding on because there's better days ahead, but we certainly have to work at it. It's not going to happen on its own usually. It might, but I don't know. It certainly didn't for me. I had to work at it every day. It's something I've had to, and it's really what it is. It's an issue of my heart. It's an issue of what's going on inside my heart and what's going on inside of my mind. And so I have to learn how to get over these things, and that's what I've done. It's taken a lot of time, 4 years. And, like some people might, really need to go the avenue of going for clinical help, whether it's to see a therapist or a counselor or something like that. But whatever it is, you just make sure that you hold in there and hang on. See, I know, like for me, I wasn't even going to talk about this morning because I wanted to get right into this Learning to Love Ourselves from Robert Burney, but I just wanted to, I was going to mention this actually on my Sunday show, but I had to miss my show last night because my sweetheart's in the hospital. I had to call 911 yesterday, and I went over to see him, and he was having a lot of troubles, and so he had to go to the hospital. He's in emergency intensive care, and they don't really know what's going on with him yet. They were doing tests last night and stuff, so I'll be over there today to see him. But the thing is he's terminally ill. He's been terminally ill for 10 years, So this disease is taking his life, and he's he's still here, but for how long, it's up to God. You know what I mean? I certainly don't know, but he's just struggling and suffering, right? Poor guy. Oh, it's harsh. It's hard to watch him in this condition. And yesterday, he literally had to go to the hospital because he fell down and hurt himself. I had to call 911. So he's in the hospital. So this is I wanted to be available to take phone calls. So that's why I didn't do my show last night. But yeah, this is the thing. It's I wanted to talk about this last night actually, because I don't talk about my own spirituality on the show, because I wanted to keep that separate. Because I know that a lot of survivors, I remember myself as a young child, not a young child so much, but a teenager. I was angry with God, and I believed in God. I had no trouble with that. I believed in God and knew there was a God. I was very upset with him, and I was mad. And I grew up in the Western culture, believing, in Christianity, right? Even though I was not a Christian, and I didn't like Christians. I didn't like anything to do with religion, and I didn't like anything to do with people, because my dad was a Christian and he was hurting us, right? So I talk about this a lot on my shows. But for 4 years ago, when I started my healing journey, I was born again. I gave my life to the Lord Jesus Christ of Nazareth. See, so to me, that is exactly why I am here today, right now, where I'm at. But I didn't want to mix my spirituality with this healing show, with this one child to be a survivor to another, because I know so many people who are angry with God. The reason why is because I was there. I was the same exact way, and nobody could convince me any different when I was a teenager that I shouldn't be feeling the way that I was, because those feelings were valid. I was very upset and very angry about the fact that I had been left in this home, in this miserable home, while people around me that I loved so dearly were dying or being killed, and in tragic accidents and horrible things, murder and just death. And I thought, my God, people around me are dying, and I love them, and why has God taken them, and why am I stuck here in this evil hellhole of a home with two parents that I love dearly who do not love me? So what's going on? You know what I mean? I was very upset with God. And so I would not have appreciated somebody coming along. I used to have people pray for me, and I didn't appreciate it. I didn't like it. I was angry, right? Very angry. And so that's why I don't mix my spirituality with one child abuse survivor to another, because I know that there's a lot of people out there who are hurting, who don't want to hear about God and His promises and His blessings. You know what I mean? And I was there, and I understand it. I understand completely where people are coming from, because I was there. And so, but 4 years ago, that all changed for me. And so I just wanted people to know today, I was thinking about this yesterday actually, that I actually attribute my healing journey to my relationship with God, which has completely changed. You know what I mean? Because 4 years ago I was born again. I started my healing journey right after that. Because I was not able to do it without some sort of an intervention, a spiritual intervention. So I believe that that's what happened, because I was going to kill myself 4 years ago. I was contemplating my suicide, and I was miserable, I was down, I was depressed, and couldn't see any other way out. And of course I didn't attempt it, I just planned it. So, but I wanted to self-injure. I was just having a whole war going on inside of me. And God stopped me and said, no, follow me. And so I was like, all right, that's what I'm going to do. And so 4 years ago, May 22nd, 2007, I actually gave my life to the Lord Jesus Christ, and I'm not looking back. I'm actually signed up to go to, wanted to go to Bible school, and all this. That's why I talk about this on my show on Sundays. But the issue is like, that's, I attribute as far as I've gotten today, and the fact that I'm doing so well, to the fact that my heart is changing, right? That's why I talk about this whole change of heart. We have to see ourselves differently. We have to be able to find something in our heart that says, no, I didn't deserve that. Yeah, that never should have happened to me as a child. I should have never been treated that way. I was a good child. I mean, every kid that's born into this world, every child that's born is a good child, and every child that's born, God loves. You know what I mean? You can't tell me that there's some child out there that just doesn't deserve to have a good life, or to have decent parents who love them and take care of them and treat them right, and have a society that would treat them right. You know what I mean? Every single person on this planet deserves that. But this planet obviously is full of evil-minded people and evil-hearted people, and that was my parents. And sadly enough, they didn't start out to be that way. They let themselves get that way. You know what I mean? And in doing so, they deserve to be loved as children too, but they weren't. And so, they just continued that evil cycle on and passed on. And it's very, very sad. You know what I mean? So many of us have experienced a lot of pain needlessly. And this is the issue, right? It's so sad what people do to each other and then expect people to be able to pick up the pieces. And so I was just, just sitting around thinking we all deserved to be loved and nurtured and treated well and treated right. You know what I mean? And this whole thing, I attribute my healing journey really to a change of heart and a change of mind. I decided to love myself. And so this is kind of what we were talking about last week on Friday, learning to love ourselves, from Robert Burney here, who's written these web pages here at healing.about.com. And, he says, we've been brought up in these dysfunctional environments with a lot of bad programming, you know what I mean? And we were good children. We did deserve to be loved, you know what I mean? And it says the effect is that as an adult we keep reacting to the programming of our childhood and do not get our needs met, our emotional, mental, spiritual, or physical needs. And it says codependency allows us to survive physically but causes us to feel empty and dead inside. And so codependence is a defense system that causes us to wound ourselves. And it's just like, this is what he's talking about here. And feeling empty and dead inside. I mean, I remember when I was 10 years old, I felt like I was dead. Because I literally did. I believe that my mother had killed my spirit at that point, because I remember I told her, I said, I'm dead anyway, why don't you just kill me? Because she had beaten me severely and caused my nose to bleed. I almost broke my nose, and then was making me clean it up, telling me to clean up my own mess, and it was my blood, and was not concerned that I was bleeding half to death, and then came in to beat me for round 2 with a belt, and my spirit was just killed, because here was a woman that I loved. Here was a woman that I had just bashed my dad in the head with a bat to protect her the year before. You know what I mean? Like, I loved my mother. I used to try to protect her, and I wanted the best for her. And for her to treat me like that was so, she had been treating me like that my whole life. It wasn't anything new. But at that point, I was so just extremely devastated by it. I mean, so extremely devastated. So I just felt dead inside. I was like, oh my God, I'm dead. She's killed me. So I just told her, go ahead and kill me. You've killed me anyway. I'm dead anyway. So then after that, my spirit was dead. And it took me until May 2nd, 2007, 4 years ago, to get my spirit back. Now, that's a long time. We're talking, that is 31 years of hell. And, that's horrible. I wouldn't wish that for anybody. But I guess it has to happen when the right timing is. I believe that there's a timing for everything. Otherwise, what would be the purpose of this whole thing? I believe that there's a timing for everything. So it's obviously my time, right? At the age of 41, right? May 22nd, 2007 was my time, right? So that's great. But, I just feel so bad for other people who are still suffering, because I know exactly what that's like. I know where you're coming from. And it's an incredibly harsh place to be. And so, I just wanted people to know. People might say, well, what's the process? What is really behind your healing journey, and what's really gotten you to where you are today? Because I'm actually doing really quite well, except for this issue with my family, because I cut them off, and that bothers me. I know that that's not really what God would want. I mean, you know what I mean? But for me, I'm sitting here kind of struggling with this, because I'm like, I don't want to talk to my family, because really, honestly, they are so ignorant, so hurtful. They have done nothing but hurt me. Of course, I wasn't the nicest person to them either. But the thing is that we're so toxic that we don't do well together. And see, they're okay with sticking around in that stupidity. I'm tired of it, right? I want to move forward. I want to move on. And I can't do it by hanging around my dysfunctional, toxic, abusive, codependent family, right? So I'm like, okay. And so I know, it's a struggle for me, because I know that I should contact my dad. He's dying, and he's not dying, but I mean, my God, he's like almost 90, so I may as well say he's on his way out, and to the next world, right? Which he'll go to heaven, I'm sure of it. He's a born again Christian, right? So he's been forgiven. All has been forgiven, right, for him. And that's the thing. I had to forgive them. I absolutely did, because it's just part of what we do as a Christian. We have to, because God says, if you want forgiveness, you must forgive, right? Jesus made that very clear, right? But this is not a Bible study. But the thing is, I didn't want to forgive them, right? But I did. I had to, right? So of course I felt a lot better, right? Because I released them. And yesterday I actually went through a releasing, spiritual releasing moment, I guess you would call it, where I released everyone who's done something wrong to me, which was mainly my family. So I had to release them all, and of course that makes me feel better. Kind of sets me free too, because releasing them sets that anger free, sets that, I'm holding you accountable stuff, like I'm just going to condemn you for the rest of your days sort of thing, right? But the thing is do I really want to hang around with my toxic family? Not really. Let me tell you, I'd prefer not to. Unfortunately, I don't want to see them ever again, because they have never been supportive. Right? Even when they're in my life, they were just hurting me, right? Saying horrible things and yelling and screaming at me like my mother used to, just because I wouldn't do what they wanted me to, which was to go shopping. Or, my sister, like, she screams at me because she says I don't love her because I won't shop with her. I don't care about shopping. I hate shopping, to be honest with you. I absolutely do not like to shop, right? It's not my cup of tea. I prefer to study and keep my head and whatnot in books. I love books. I'm more of a student. I just study all the time. So even when I'm not getting credits at universities, I'm studying all the time, right? And so, I prefer to do that, and I'm much more of a spiritual person. So I don't want to go shopping. I'd rather listen to something, spiritual or whatever, right? So I'm just not into this whole, let's just shop and watch TV type of thing, right? That's just not my cup of tea. So, she screams at me because I'm talking about Ezekiel or something, or the book, the tablets, Ezekiel tablets or something, and she wants to go shopping, and so she gets upset because I'm not doing what she wants me to do. She's 5 years older than me. So as a child, what was she doing to me when we were sharing a bedroom? She was always screaming at me and hitting me, punching me, kicking me. Actually, used to beat me up quite a bit, because she was watching my mother beat me up, so she was just following suit, right? And so now as an adult, she can't beat me up. Well, she could, right, if she wanted to. Then I could press charges. But the thing is, so what does she do? Screams at me and makes me feel like that small, little, wounded, evil child that I used to feel so long ago. See, why do I want to hang around with somebody like that? She doesn't love me. She says she does. But how could you if you're going to treat somebody like that? You know what I mean? Like, it's ridiculous. So that's why, I'm working on this. Right? This is an area that I'm really struggling in because I don't want to see my family. I cut them off about half a year ago, and I actually cut my sister off almost a year ago, and I'm happy, right? That's like, this is pretty sad that a person would be happy cutting their family off. But if you guys know, because you listen to my shows, how my family is. And one of my brothers hasn't talked to me for like 6 years. I'm not going to call him. The guy's like 60-something years old. We have nothing in common. The last phone call we had, he was yelling at me and screaming at me, right? So I'm like, okay, forget it, buddy. You know what I mean? Whatever. And they hate the fact that I'm a Christian. They hate the fact that I'm doing good. Really, they do. My brother hates the fact that I'm healing and I'm doing well, and that I'm a Christian and I love God. Amen. He hates that because he hates God, right? Well, he says he has no opinion of God one way or another. I don't believe that. I think he's got a lot of hatred in his heart. My brother grew up in the same home we did, right? Abused in every way and horrific, you know what I mean? So see, like they're not on their healing journey. So for me to hang around with them is just too toxic, you know what I mean? So maybe that'll change, you know what I mean, down the road. But for now, and of course it could be too late for my dad because he's almost 90, right? So who, how long can I hold out without seeing him, you know what I mean? Because he's not going to be on the planet how many more years, you know what I mean? So this is there's things that we need to get help with, right? Like even for myself, this is an issue that I'm going to have to work through in my heart, right? Because otherwise I'll feel bad about it. I'll feel like that bad kid that I used to be, you know what I mean, and that my parents made me feel, you know what I mean? All because I don't want to allow people to abuse me anymore. So we have to be very careful as adult survivors to not be re-victimized, even by our own families, right? How much do we have to tolerate? This is the issue. And we have to be very, very careful not to let people hurt us again. We have the right to stand up for ourselves. We're adults, right? We don't have to take that. As children, we did, but as adults, no, we don't, right? So we have to get this stuff right in our heart, and that's why I wanted to bring this to just talk about this today, right? Because this is an issue of the heart. This is what's going on we have to get in touch with our thoughts and feelings, but make sure if you can't do self-help that you reach out and you get some help. Call a crisis line, call a support line, right? But make sure you do get some help and reach out, right? Have a good day, everybody. I'll be back on. I should be back on tonight, but maybe not. But if I'm not on tonight, it's because I'll be at the hospital. But otherwise, I'll be on tomorrow morning at the same time. So take good care of yourselves. I just keep you in my heart. And thanks everybody for tuning in. Have a really good day. Bye bye.